Hey viewers, God bless you and welcome back to the program Kingdom Connections with Kingdom Generals. I'm here with the wonderful Jennifer Lapompe, a dynamic woman who is creating waves in the city of London. She's doing charities in Haiti. I'm telling you, you need to hear more about this lady. Welcome back to the program, my beloved.
Thank you.
God bless you. God bless you. I wanted to ask the question, I wanted to find out some of the highs and some of the lows of Jennifer. Tell me some of the lowest points you have had in your life, Jennifer.
Lows. I don't know I've had that many lows. I think one of the things for me when I came at a young age to a strange country, I felt very displaced.
Right.
And so I think that was probably one of the low. I really wanted to get back to my homeland where I was happy. My mum had left me 2 years previous, so I knew her, but I barely knew my father. He'd left when I was 1. So I found I was in a very strange place, having to get used to that environment, and I really didn't like it. Then for me, really, I had 2 very absent parents, although they were there, so I felt very much that I raised myself. And so I wouldn't say that was low, but it certainly meant that some of the sort of emotional attachments to parents weren't as they should be. So, but that built a strength in me.
Right.
That built a strength in me. But in terms of low, I don't want to kind of sit and find them because my life journey had largely gone the way I wanted it. At a young age, I bought my first property because I determined that that's what I was going to do. So my life was very much around planning ahead and doing the things that I wanted to do. I got married very young. The marriage lasted about 11, 12 years and got divorced, but remained friends with my husband. So yeah, I'll be plucking lows. I haven't had sort of life devastating lows. I just feel that I'm blessed. I think what I've had is challenges along the journey.
Right.
I think the biggest change for me was being largely in control of myself and my decisions and the things I choose to do.
Right.
Then becoming a Christian and had to kind of relearn and understand what it means to kind of seek God's will and wait. So that was a real, I suppose, challenge for me in not just jumping up and doing what I want, but learning to sit back and understood that what that meant. But largely, and in all honesty, I can't tell you that I've had any kind of rock bottom lows. I think in business you get some things that happen, and I think one of the biggest challenges in business that would have been a low for me, which kind of birthed the cards, was when people who are in positions of authority and officials come and sort of tell lies about your business or about the things that they do, and you find yourself in a battle with that. And so for me, those were the times where I kind of wanted to give up the things I was doing because I just thought I'm in a battle where I have to kind of balance the things that I do to address it. But largely my life has been pretty good, and I can't say there was any real devastating moments that I was rock bottom, and then no, it's been a blessed.
So would you say that you took control of your life?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I had to relearn. That when you're in God's kingdom, you had to kind of let go of some of that control, and learn to kind of trust and wait. And that's been my biggest learning curve.
Right. What do you say to the folks that have had challenges, but they just want to give up? They are not progressing. They don't have that courage to step forward. What would you say to those?
Well, I think if you have faith, if you're a Christian, and I'm assuming most people who are watching are, that you find a sense of what does Christ and being a Christian mean, and hold on to that faith, because it's the faith that gets you through. I'll give you an example. I remember about a year or 2 ago, I really wanted to kind of stop the business I was in. And I laid on the sofa, and I remember that Saturday saying, all right, Lord, no big prayer going to go on. We're going to just get an answer, yes or no. Should I leave it or should I not? Because I had to learn to now ask the question instead of acting. And I remember the word came back in my spirit, I've given you a good business when I put it on the ground. And then soon after that, I had a dream. It may have been a day or two later, but in the dream, I'm in a car and the car's reversing back at speed, like seriously going. And I remember thinking in the dream, because I seem to have the ability to be conscious, but in a dream, to say, why am I going to go back and I could crash,
Yes.
but I'm not crashing, so God must be in it. And then the car suddenly stopped. And to cut the long story short, I woke up and the Spirit of the Lord showed me that things might not always look like how you want it to look. But know that God's in control.
Amen.
And that encouraged me, because soon after, I was in another battle.
Wow. Wow.
And in a real battle.
Wow.
And I keep remembering those words. It doesn't matter what it looks like in the natural. Know that God's in control. There's something better on the other side.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And so that is what I do. I remember that when God's in it, it doesn't matter what it looks like on the other side.
You seem to have a strong belief in God. What is the catalyst that helped to develop that strong faith in God with Jennifer?
I'll tell you my story about church and God. I mean, I've always believed in Jesus and Christ. But I have to be honest and say that I was never a conformist. I'm a bit of a kind of a radical.
Yes.
I'm radical in the sense that I don't go with the grain necessarily. I ask questions, I question things, I seek understanding.
Right.
I knew as I said earlier on, I knew from an early age that I hear things.
Right.
I never understood what it is, but I know now it's the Holy Spirit. So that's where I seek my guidance. I ask questions about things biblical. So I would say to you, I was in church for about 16 years sleeping. I'd go to church like everyone else, praise and worship, hear the word, it was good or it was bad, and I'd go home. I never got into the church world. So you wouldn't find me at Bible studies, and you wouldn't find me at going out with
Right.
But I knew I had gifts. I knew that there was something in me that if I laid my hands on someone that had a headache, and I believed that, and people would tell me that. So I knew I had gifts, but I was in a church and I was sleeping, in that the sense is a lot of the gifts were dormant.
Right.
And intellectually I wasn't interested in developing it.
Right.
But what started to happen to me was God started to warn me. So I would get the scriptures.
Yes.
If you don't do this, this is going to happen. I would go to various different churches and people come and warn me there's an anointing on you. And so I knew that there was something more there. And it happened every day. Every day I'd wake up, I'd get a warning to surrender. Every day for a long time. But my interest in the supernatural had been birthed from a child. So I was interested in all kind of things supernatural. And so sometimes what I was interested in took me outside of God's will.
Right.
But he would bring me back in.
Amen.
And so that continued for a while. And I got to the point where I thought, I need to hear what God's saying. And I remember I was at church one day and I'd said to a sister, what, God's been calling me for so long, I need to start paying attention.
Right.
And the Sunday after, the service took a different turn and people were being called up to get a word. And I thought, okay, Lord, if you got a word for me, you'll call me. So people were going up after an hour, no call. And then I heard, Jennifer! And I thought, okay. And the pastor said, God's got you where he wants you. And I smiled because I kind of knew what that was.
Wow.
And so hence started my journey, because what then happened after that, a friend of mine had come across an apostle who was teaching. He was teaching things that we hadn't heard in church.
Yes.
And so she was ringing me and telling me, I'm hearing all of this new stuff, end time. And I said, okay, you go to the classes and you take notes and you bring them back and give me, because I'm doing my coaching diploma.
Right.
I ain't got time to go to school and ministry. So one day we were having a telephone conversation. And she said, I've got to go because I'm going to women's ministry. So I said, I'll come and join the program. So I got there a little late because I called another friend and was waiting for her. When I got there, the place was packed solid.
Mm.
And so there was a seat right at the back, and I said, "Oh, we can sit here." And she said, "No, I'm going up the front because every time I go anywhere with you,
Yes.
you get called and people put all this blessing on you." So I said, "Well, if God want me, you'll find me at the back." Well, let me tell you this: the lady who was organising the women's conference said, "Oh, let me introduce she called him Dad. Let me introduce the apostle who ordained me to you." He got up out of his seat, and I heard, "He's looking at you." In the natural, there's no way he could see me.
Mm.
The next thing I heard was, "He's going to come for you." And with that, he left the pulpit, and people were trying to get hold of him.
Yeah.
And he came right to the back of the room and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Get ready for your ministry."
Wow.
Now, I'd heard that so many times, I was a little blasé about it.
Mm-hmm.
So he said to me, "Speak to the lady next to me.
Yes.
She's
yes.
in the school of ministry." So, being the polite self I am, I listened to her and showed excitement of, "Wow, that sounds good." But in my mind, I was like, I'm doing my coaching diploma.
Yes.
Roll forward 9 months or so, my friend had joined the school, was getting ordained. So, of course, I'm going to go along to support her. So he's not going to remember me because 9, 10, it's nearly a year gone by.
Mm.
He only met me once. Well, let me tell you, when I went to say hello, he said, "God called you."
Wow.
And when God calls you, you answer the call. Well, I didn't need to hear nothing more. That was it.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm not playing anymore.
Wow.
But that changed my life because going to an environment where your gifts, the aim is to activate and release your gifts
Mm.
at a level that I hadn't experienced before, was my turning point.
Powerful.
Yeah, that was my turning point.
Powerful.
And I did my 1.5 year training, and then I taught the ministers coming up for 2 years.
Mm.
So so in that, I was just embedded in that.
That's powerful.
Yeah.